Ferrari just dropped an atomic bomb. They've delivered to the FIA new evidence that could ban Mercedes from the championship before Bahrain even begins. Not speculation, not suspicions, concrete proof. According to Ferrari's report, the M17 power unit uses heat to change shape during the race, expanding the combustion chamber, increasing compression, and generating illegal power without ever touching the software. This trick is worth up to 20 horsepower per lap, the difference between pole position and mid-pack. But here's the insane thing. The FIA had already approved the engine, but they didn't know about this because Mercedes never declared the thermal behavior. They passed cold inspection, but at race temperatures it's a completely different machine. And now, Ferrari has the data, the proof, the simulations, and is demanding immediate action. Immediate review, immediate disassembly, and immediate disqualification if the trick is confirmed. But attention! A new Formula One Commission meeting is coming in the next days to decide definitively. And there's a plot twist. Red Bull changed position. Before they favored Mercedes, now they've given their support to rival manufacturers, and Johnny Herbert pokes Ferrari with doubts about the season. Stay with me because what I'm about to tell you is explosive. The first clue arrived quietly in Barcelona. During private data analysis, 2 days after testing, Ferrari had recorded hours of onboard footage, high-resolution infrared thermal maps, and real-time telemetry of every car on track, especially Mercedes. At first, everything seemed clean during initial analysis, but then a young performance analyst, unnamed, working inside Maranello, flagged something strange. Every time Mercedes completed a 17-lap cycle, the combustion signature changed noticeably. Not the fuel composition, not the throttle input, the combustion chamber itself. The pressure curve was different, stronger, tighter, cleaner than expected. It made no sense unless something physical was changing. Ferrari's technical director ordered a complete breakdown. They loaded Mercedes' engine model into Ferrari's private simulator, recreated the same temperatures, same airflow, same pressure conditions, and there, buried in the thermal behavior, they saw the truth. The chamber was deforming under high temperatures. Specific walls in the pre-combustion zone were expanding by micromillimeters. Not enough to break, just enough to shift compression and change everything dramatically. That single shift gave Mercedes higher ignition efficiency, more torque on demand, and greater energy recovery from every fuel cycle consistently. And here's the key. It resets after every cooldown, which means during FIA inspections, the engine appears completely normal. It's only once it heats up in actual race conditions that the trick activates automatically. Ferrari ran the numbers. Lap after lap, they found a power gain of just under 3%, enough to shave 0.2 per lap or 12 seconds over a complete race distance. This isn't innovation, it's something that breaks the game. And Ferrari knew it, so they compiled everything. The thermal maps, chamber data, a side-by-side comparison with their own FIA-approved engine under identical stress loads. They highlighted the expansion threshold, documented the breaking point of standard alloys, then cross-referenced it with the only possible material that could survive that change. And what did they find? Mercedes is using a composition never declared during homologation. It's not just a design question, it's a protocol violation. A breach of Article 3, Section 2, requiring full material transparency before approval is granted. And now, with this report in FIA hands, Ferrari is demanding one thing: ban the engine before it ever races. The file arrived at 9:40 in the morning, labeled Technical Reassessment Request Power Unit M17. It was over 40 pages long, detailed, coded, backed by concrete data. When FIA compliance officers opened it, they didn't speak, didn't issue a response. They escalated immediately. Within an hour, it was in the technical director's hands. By mid-afternoon, the president had been informed, and by nightfall, the FIA knew they had a crisis on their hands. Because what Ferrari had exposed wasn't just clever engineering, it was something far worse. A material not listed in original homologation, a pressure behavior not tested during approval phase, a dynamic system that becomes active only when the car's racing in race conditions. Homologation files were pulled line by line, statement by statement. And there the real panic began because inside the documents, buried in December submissions from Mercedes, there was a gap. A component labeled Variable Thermal Seal Interface, with no further explanation, no diagram, no material listed, just a technical placeholder without details. It had been missed, overlooked, rushed through, signed during Christmas period with limited staff and no physical review. It was supposed to be inspected post-Bahrain, but now it's center stage and could bring down the entire system. And here comes the plot twist. In recent days emerged a clear change in Red Bull's position on the power unit case. Before favoring Mercedes, now the Austrian team appears to have given their support to rival manufacturers. This can ensure that regarding compression ratio measurement, Ferrari's proposal will be supported. A new Formula One Commission meeting is expected in coming days to decide definitively on measurements proposed by Maranello. The power unit case isn't closed yet, and new updates are coming from Mercedes and Ferrari. Mercedes hasn't responded publicly, not immediately. No statement, no denial, no calm explanation for cameras. But inside Brackley, everything changed. Within hours of Ferrari's report reaching the FIA, Mercedes activated their internal crisis protocol, the same one reserved for situations threatening the championship. Engineers were pulled from development, legal consultants were brought in, and a message was delivered to every senior staff member. Say nothing, document everything. Toto Wolff requested an emergency meeting with FIA leadership, not to discuss data, not to debate interpretation, to draw a line. Mercedes' position was clear. The engine was approved, materials were declared within tolerance, and the behavior Ferrari describes according to Mercedes falls under passive thermal response, not an active system. In other words, the engine doesn't change, the conditions do. And that distinction matters because under regulations, passive material behavior is legal as long as it's not mechanically activated. No valve, no software trigger, no moving parts, just physics. This is Mercedes' defense. And Toto also brought lawyers, specialists in sports arbitration, contract law, and governance disputes. And the warning they delivered to the FIA was brutal. If you ban this engine before it races, you're admitting your own failure. If you change interpretation now, you're acting retroactively. And if you do, either Mercedes will challenge it in court, not quietly, not politely, publicly, aggressively, and with consequences. And while all this happens, Johnny Herbert pokes Ferrari. The former driver and steward was asked for a prediction ahead of 2026. With little data emerged from Barcelona tests, it's obviously premature to commit. But Herbert still has some doubts about Ferrari despite great hopes for the new season. Look, in my opinion, this is the biggest bomb in recent Formula One history. Ferrari did incredible investigative work. They analyzed thermal maps, simulated Mercedes' engine, discovered combustion chamber expansion under heat, and found undeclared material. 40 pages of concrete proof, not talk or speculation. The trick is genius from technical standpoint. Passes cold checks at 16-1, but hot rises to 18-1 with 3% power gain. 0.2 per lap, 12 seconds over a race. It's the difference between winning and losing the championship completely. Johnny Herbert doubting Ferrari at this moment seems out of place. Ferrari just did the most impressive investigative work in recent years. They have proof in hand. They're fighting for justice in Formula One. This isn't the moment to poke, but to recognize they're doing the right thing for the sport. We'll see what the FIA decides, but Mercedes is truly in trouble.